Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Disney Inside Out podcast. I'm your host, Ryan, and today we've got a very fun special guest. It is Stephanie Pam Roberts, who has a world of Disney experience. We're going to find all about that. But Stephanie is also a voiceover extraordinaire with her own podcast, Making It to the Mic, which we'll talk about as well too, because it's a great podcast. But I want to give Stephanie a chance to say hello. So hello, Stephanie. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Ryan. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm very excited that you're here because you have done a lot of fun Disney things, some really cool things that we haven't had on this show before. So I'm really excited.
Sweet. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. So I always do a little segment called Goofy Gazette where I do a little bit of Disney news. And I know that you share a love for The Little Mermaid like I do.
Yes. It's my favorite Disney movie.
Yes, my favorite too. So any chance I can talk about it, I want to talk about it. So what I want to discuss is there have been some, I don't know if you followed because I kind of was like, either I'll follow the news about the live action movie or I won't and I'll be surprised. But I went down the rabbit hole and followed it. And there's been a lot of leaked pictures of the set, like in Italy. They're wrapping up the filming.
Ooh.
Have you seen any of them?
No, but now I want to.
So there's pictures of, I'll tell you, there's like two scenes, and one of them's up for debate, is what it is. There's a scene where she's obviously dressed in like the rags, like she just became human, and she's in the
Mm-hmm.
village,
Mm-hmm.
and she's in a wagon, and it looks fun. And then the other scene, she's in this really pretty pink dress, and she's with Prince Eric, and they're in a rowboat, and people are like, "Oh, it's Kiss the Girl." But
Mm.
it's daylight, and it also her dress, I don't know, something about it seems like it might be like the finale, even though I don't know why they'd be in a rowboat.
Yeah, that's not the right dress for that scene.
Right. And she does, I don't know. So I don't know if it's Kiss the Girl, but I'm super excited and she looks beautiful. The whole thing, the Italy, like where they're filming, it looks so great and I'm so excited to see it. Are you excited for the live action?
I am. I have to say I haven't followed a ton of the live actions. We saw Aladdin and I don't know, there have been a couple others that I've seen, but I'm a little behind because I have a 4-year-old kiddo who
Mhm.
takes up a lot of time. And so I feel like a little out of the loop in terms of like the newer Disney movies and like news. But I am excited because it's my favorite. And I'm so curious to see how they're gonna do it because I didn't love the Broadway show.
Mhm, mhm, right.
Um so I'm really curious to see what this new take on it is and how they're going to do the underwater scenes. Do you
Mhm.
know? Have they released any info?
So they did a lot of filming in the UK on sound stages, and I think that's where all the underwater stuff happened. I feel like it's going to be CGI and
Yeah.
like,
It has to be, right? I mean,
yeah,
obviously they didn't sing underwater.
right. And they didn't make her a mermaid, or maybe they
No,
did.
well, maybe they did. Disney, we don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, there is one of the first leaked pictures in Italy was Eric laying on the beach and her laying, and it looks like the scene where she rescues him, and Hallie is in a like CGI type suit, and you can see what is supposed to be her tail, and it's very long.
Mm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm guessing that will all be sort of animated, but yeah, I think it's going to be CGI, I'm sure.
Yeah. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with the story. I feel like there's going to be some changes. I feel like it's going to be similar to the Broadway show. I'm going to guess that Ariel saves the day at the end versus
Mhm.
Prince Eric because they did that in the Broadway show.
You know what? I don't even remember.
Yeah, spoiler
Ooh.
alert if you didn't see the Broadway show. I mean, you can't because it's not on Broadway. But Ariel kind of like smashed the shell necklace and got her voice, and then that destroyed Ursula. And Prince Eric actually didn't really
Right.
do anything.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah,
um,
women power. We should have that little script flipped
Yeah,
at the
I,
end.
I think it will. But curious about the Broadway show. So I loved the Broadway show because I love The Little Mermaid and I love seeing any iteration of it. But I agree with you. For me, I felt like it was a not a great mix of like director designers. I felt there was like a mishmash of like it on stage. I
Yeah.
don't know if you how you felt about it.
It's funny. I saw it right after I got off the ship, and I can't remember which contract, but I was so excited to see it, and we like sat in the theater, and I saw it with my friend Mark, who was on the ship with me, and we were like, "Here we go, Little Mermaid!" And then the overture started, and it sounded like the overture for Disney Dreams, and so I was like, "Oh, like no, I
Oh,
don't,
am I at
no,
work?
I don't want this. I want like the beginning of the movie, which was there's obviously like no overture. It's just that well, there is, but later. But I wanted like the
The
sound
faint
of the
like da da da
sea.
da da da
Yeah. And
da
the
da da.
like birdies and then the show to start and it didn't. It was like da 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 da
Yeah,
da. I was like, no.
yeah.
But then and I loved some of the performances. I
Mhm.
just felt like the whole thing was strange to watch on stage and everybody like floating their arms to show we're
Right,
underwater. Like we know you're underwater. We don't have to do that.
right,
But
right.
I there were some moments that were so creative and of course like Sierra Bagas.
Bogus, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Sierra Boggess was incredible, and Titus is incredible.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that they did a really great job of bringing their characters to life, but I thought the sort of design around them, like I didn't love the set. I thought the underwater could have been handled a little differently. They did it on Heelys, like those shoes where they skate,
Yeah.
and I was like, I get it, but you see other productions now, and it's like there's so many other ways to do it, but it was just a
Yeah.
choice, you
I
know.
I would I would wanna see the stage show again because they put in new songs, and I honestly don't remember a single thing
Mhm.
except that right from the beginning, I was like, "No." I was
Yeah.
disappointed, I couldn't get out of it.
Oh, well, here's hoping the live action movie just blows us out of the water, no pun intended.
Yes. Pun intended.
Well, I want to get to know you a little more in terms of your Disney experience. So, if you can tell us, do you remember your first introduction to Disney as a child or the first Disney movie you remember seeing?
Yeah. So, uh spoiler alert, I listened to the podcast. And so every time I listen after I knew I was going to be a guest, I was like, what's my answer going to be?
Mhm.
So, and then I was trying to think, like, I really was really trying to go all the way back. So I actually grew up in South Florida, about a 4 hour drive from Disney. So we went all the time. Like I went to Disney as a kid. There are pictures of me. I'm probably 2 or 3 at Disney. I don't remember that. Um, and I also had a little like stuffed Mickey and Minnie toy that my dog then decided were his.
Yeah.
But I called them Mimo because I couldn't pronounce Mickey Mouse.
Oh.
So I like had this Mickey toy from I don't even know, like from when I was a baby probably. But yeah, so there are pictures of me at Disney from I mean the early 80s. I'm probably 2 or 3 in them maybe.
Mhm.
Um and there's a picture of me like sitting on Main Street eating a Mickey Pop and there's a couple of pictures of me on the carousel and that yeah, like that kind of and in front of the castle with my mom and dad. So even now when I go to Disney, like I start to cry because I'm like, oh, it's like my childhood. Like it's so ingrained and so in there because I had been there as such a young child that Main Street especially just makes me feel so nostalgic.
Oh, I love that. Now, do you have a favorite ride at Disney World?
Oh yes. I loved It's a Small World.
Ooh.
Much to the dismay of my parents who had to ride it. And it's wonderful, but it's so long and repetitive. And even now, my dad, who he was here and he was like, "Oh, when are you going to take Phoebe to Disney World?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I mean, probably not for a long time." And he was like, "Oh, I guess you have to take her on It's a Small World." I was like, "But it's still one of my favorite rides." So
Yeah.
but I am not a roller coaster person, like at
Mhm.
all. I do not like roller coasters. So growing up going to Disney, and I'm an only child, so I never rode any of the roller coasters until I was in high school, even though I went every single year
Mhm.
because nobody was forcing me to, and I didn't want to ride them. And my parents were like, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So we stuck to like Small World, the Carousel, Pirates. I think that
Mm.
was the most like adventurous
Right.
ride we did with a little drop at the beginning. I was like,
Right.
I did it. I'm on a roller coaster.
Right. You get
No,
one of those shirts that say, "I survived Pirates of the Caribbean."
exactly.
Oh, I love that. Now, have you been to Disneyland as well?
Yes, I went to Disneyland. So my husband and I lived in San Francisco for most of 2010. He's a sound engineer and he was working on Wicked out there. So we went at the end of our time in San Francisco before moving back to New York. We kind of did a tour of like things we should do on the West Coast before we go back. So we did go to Disneyland. Um, and it was funny, like, never having been there and only having been to Walt Disney World, it was like, oh my gosh, it's so little. Like, you park in the parking lot and you walk across the street and it's like LA. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you go behind this wall and you're like, oh, I'm in Disney. It's so weird
It
because
is.
Walt Disney World in Florida is so secluded. You can't see anything, it's all trees everywhere. And so that was really funny to me that it was just like plopped in the middle of the city. Um, and then we were there, I guess we were there right when the Halloween enhancements were going on. Um, and my husband did manage to convince me to ride Space Mountain because I had ridden it in Florida a few
Yeah.
times. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. Ryan, it was the worst experience of my
Oh
life. I
no.
did not realize that you rode by yourself.
Oh yeah.
In Florida, you ride side by side, but in California, it's singles. And they had these like Halloween enhancements. And so there was this crazy music playing, this like very intense music, and these like fireballs coming at you. I screamed the entire ride. The picture looks like someone is stabbing me.
Right.
And I couldn't speak afterwards for like several days. I had no voice because that is how loud and hard I screamed on
Oof.
Space Mountain. Needless to say, I loved Disneyland. I had such a great time, and it was really, really fun to see a different. It's the only other park I've been to besides Florida, so that was really fun. But no, no more Space Mountain.
No more Space Mountain. Sounds like you're good with that one.
I'm good. It was like that's it. That's all I need.
Now in Disney World, because I know I always tell people like I get Disneyland, it's the original, it's classic. You go, you're like, this is the original. But I agree with you. When I went to it, I was like, this is it. Like it feels so.
And the
It's
castle felt
Yeah, and like you're right. When you go to Disney World, I mean, you are literally in a world. The roads, the
teeny.
signs,
Mm-hmm.
everything around it, it's purple. It's like nothing looks like the real world. So you
Yes.
literally feel like, even if you leave a park, you're on a Disney bus or you're driving and the signs are purple and yellow, like everything feels so just yeah, you're just totally immersed. And Disneyland is much more, just kind of there and you walk out and you're like, "Oh, I'm in the parking lot."
Yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite park at Disney World? Because Disney World has it as four parks. Do
Yeah.
you have a favorite that you like? If someone was like, "Hey, we're going to Disney World. We can only go to one park today. Which one would you choose?"
Probably Magic Kingdom. It's still my favorite. I
Yeah.
I love Epcot for more reasons now, like as an adult, because I love the food and being able to like enjoy the countries in a different way. When you're a kid,
Mhm.
Epcot is super boring.
Yeah.
um we used to call it every person comes out tired,
Oh,
and
that's. Oh, I haven't heard that.
we were like, oh, let's skip Epcot. And Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom I also love for different reasons, but Magic Kingdom, like if I'm gonna just spend a day and that's the only thing I can do, I'm gonna go
Hmm.
there.
Yeah, I agree. Magic Kingdom is just like it's magical, and people think,
It
oh,
really
it's
is.
it's just kids, but I'm like, no, there's something about it that just being there and the ride, and they have some great rides for adults
Mm-hmm.
too, and like Main Street and the design, everything, like you really appreciate it as you get older. So,
Yes, I totally agree. And I can't wait to go with my daughter and kind of see it through her eyes because I think that is going to be really magical too. But you know, I think it's like such a delicate balance. I grew up so close. So my parents were like,
mhm,
"Whatever, we'll hop in the car if she doesn't like it, we go home. It's not a big thing." But now like going to Disney is a big thing. Like we have to get on a plane and rent a
right,
car or get on the bus or whatever and hotel rooms and all this stuff. So I want to go when it feels like she's excited and
committed.
ready. Yeah.
Does she ask about going?
No, I don't think she knows about it really, but
Okay.
she loves all things Disney. Like she loves Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Minnie Mouse, and she loves. We've watched a ton of movies and she loves them, but yeah, I don't know that she really gets. She's seen pictures of me with the characters,
Yeah,
but I don't think she gets like that. That's like a human, not a human, but like if,
right,
that she could like stand next to them.
that she could do that.
That yeah, that's like real life. Like she could stand next to Mickey Mouse and take a picture.
Right. Oh, I can't wait. I saw a picture of her because she loves Princess Anna from Frozen, right? Is that her favorite?
Yes, yes.
And there was a great photo that you shared of her. wearing the costume, and she literally looks ecstatic. Like she's like, "This is the best day of my life."
I know for a while she's had a bunch of costumes, and for a while she would just hold it up to her. And then one day we were like, "Do you want to put it on?" And she was like, "Yes." And we were like, "Yes." So, like we're such a theater family. We were so excited. So we put the dress on and she was like, "Oh, mama, look." And she was so thrilled. And
Right.
then it came with a wig and I was like, "Do you want to put the wig on? You don't have to. You can if you want." And she was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Yes."
Yes,
So I
put it
put
on.
the wig on her and then she put the shoes on and I just could not. It was so cute and so funny because it's the costume but like tiny for her
Oh.
and she really enjoyed that. So now for her birthday we just got her like a box of princess costumes. It's like tops and skirts that match
Mhm.
that look like the princesses. So
Oh.
she's in it already.
Oh, I can't wait to see. Yeah, the picture is so cute. She looked like it was the best day ever.
Yes.
So you've had a lot of experience working with Disney. So take us through sort of your journey with Disney. What was first? Because I think you did work in the park.
No, I've
You
actually
never worked in
never
the
worked in the
park.
parks.
You
No.
worked on the cruise ship, though.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us, just kind of take us from the beginning. Like, how did you get into the Disney cruise, the audition, just sort of how did you end up on Disney cruise performing?
Yeah. Well, it's funny again, like growing up in Florida, I always wanted to work for Disney. It was like a lifelong dream. And I thought maybe I would like spend a summer up there. And I was like, I don't know. Like during high school, I was like, that's kind of complicated. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll do the college program. But I was a BFA musical theater major. And so it just kind of didn't ever work out. I was like, I got to go do summer stock or something theater related. So, um, my audition is a funny story. So, spring break one year, I can't remember. I guess it would have been in 2005. Yeah. So spring break of 2005, a bunch of my friends that were still in college came to New York for the week. And they stayed with us and they were like, "We want to go to some auditions." And I was like, "All right, I'll go with you." So I said, what are we doing?" And they were like, there's a Disney Cruise Line audition. Like we really, really want to go." And I was like, "Ugh, cruise line? Like I don't
Uh,
want to do a cruise. I don't know." And I had friends that had done cruises and they had a great time, but I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm like cut out for that. All right, whatever. I'll just go. Like, what's the harm in going? So I got all dressed up and ready and I went and I sang. And then I got a call back. And then I got another call back. And then I got another call back. And I was like, uh-oh.
oh.
I might book this.
Uh,
But my friends got callbacks too. So it was a male friend and a female friend. So we all got callbacks and we were all super excited. And then that was it. They went back to college. I went back to living in New York City. And then they got calls with offers to join the cast. And they both turned them down because they also were like, well, we're just about to graduate from college and we think we kind of actually want to just move to the city and
mm.
not do a cruise, which was totally understandable. But then I got the call next. So because my friend turned it down, I got the job. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So they offered me the same contract, the same role, everything, the same ship. And for me, I was like, well, maybe I just do this because A, I love Disney. I've always wanted to work for Disney. And B, like, it's a cruise. I get to kind of be in my homeland of, warm weather. I'm a warm weather person. I love the beach. I love the water. And so I took it. And so that was my first contract it was short actually. It was rehearsals in Toronto for 6 weeks and then on the ship for 4 months, which was short comparatively. So I was
Mhm.
there from like the end of 2005 through the holidays into February of 2006. And then I went back for almost all of 2007 for my second contract. And then I actually also auditioned for the World of Disney store in New York City, but I didn't get it. And then when I was back from the second contract, I had a ton of friends who were already working there. And then I reapplied and re-auditioned and then got to work there as well.
So amazing. I love that
Yeah.
you were like, I don't want to go to the audition, and then you get it.
I
You're
know.
like the Susan Egan of Disney Cruise. You know, Susan
Mm.
Egan's Beauty and the Beast. She was like, she didn't want to go. She thought it was stupid, and the agent was like, no, you got to go. And she's like, whatever. She went, and then she gets the part.
Oh my
So
gosh.
You're the Susan
That's
Egan of
right. I'm
Disney
just
Cruise.
like Susan Egan.
You're just like Susan Egan. So tell us, what was the show on the cruise ship? Can you tell us like about the story, who you played?
Yeah, so I was on the Disney Wonder. So they're all numbered contracts. Not for the guests, but for the cast members. So I was Wonder 12 and Wonder 15. I think they're up to like, I don't know, in the 30s or 40s now. They must be even more than that. So I did both contracts. I did the same shows. I did Hercules the musical. I did Disney Dreams and Golden Mickey's. And they have since changed some of the content of Golden Mickey's and Disney Dreams, but mine was kind of the original iterations of those shows. For Hercules, it's like the movie on stage, but kind of a little bit of a show within a show because they have to do something to kind of
Right.
zhuzh it up for the ship. But that was really fun. It wasn't super well received by the guests because I think a lot of people don't know that movie as well, even though it's so fantastic and the
Oh, so
music is
good.
so amazing.
Yeah.
But I think the guests were a little like, eh. Plus, it was the show that we did. I did The Wonder does, or at the time, The Wonder was doing 3 and 4 night cruises. Hercules was the first night of the cruise. And the first night, like everybody's getting acclimated. It's
Yeah.
pretty rocky getting out of Florida to Nassau. So people were like, well, I don't want to be
Yeah.
here. So that show was always not super well received. But then Golden Mickey's is basically a review of like other Disney movies. In that show, I was just the one of the ensemble members. So I was in a ton of different numbers with like a million costume changes. And then Disney Dreams was sort of like my big show. I was Anne Marie, who
Mhm.
is the lead little girl. She's supposed to be like a 10-year-old girl who learns to believe in her dreams and fly when and Peter Pan is there with her to help her do that. And
I
it's the best.
I love the show, and you can see it. I mean, I guess, is it illegally on YouTube?
Yeah, no, it's legal
It's
because
legal. Okay.
yeah, so I think they might have refilmed it finally because they changed the content, but
Hmm.
for a while my second contract, they filmed our production. They came on board on a port day and filmed us doing the show twice and then filmed kind of like pickups. And then we were the stateroom TV version, and that's actually the version that's on YouTube. I'm sure there's others too, but my like official version is there.
Yeah. So if you want to check it out, it's a really really cute show. I love.
I'll try to find the link for you and you can
Yeah.
stick it in the show
I'll
notes.
stick it in the show notes for everybody to watch because it's really cute.
It's so
Has Phoebe
sweet.
seen it?
Yes, so she saw it last year, like, at the beginning of quarantine. I was like, "What are we gonna do today? Do you wanna watch this movie?"
Yeah.
And she loved it, and for a while, she kept calling herself Big Kid Anne Marie
Oh.
because she, like, wanted to be like Big Kid Anne Marie. I didn't tell her anything at first, I just put it on, and then I was like, "Phoebe, do you recognize that girl?" And she was like, "Hmm," and she was like, "Mama, it's you." And I was like, "Yeah, you're
Oh.
right." It was really cute.
I thought she was gonna be like, nope. Doesn't look
Nope.
familiar. Doesn't ring a bell. Yeah, I love about the show because there's so many different characters in it. Ariel is in it, our favorite. She
Mhm.
comes up out of that's the way the characters are introduced are really clever and fun. And it's a really cute show. And I think I have seen they did put out like another version too with like some updates, but
Yeah.
it's really a great show. So yeah, I'll share that so everybody can watch it. Did you rehearse for it in New York City or in Florida?
No. Nope, we rehearse in Toronto because
Okay.
there's a lot of international, cast members, and
Okay.
I think the laws, the work laws, and all that kinda stuff is easier in Canada, so we all go to Toronto, we live it's like college, like, you live in, like, a building, like a dorm, essentially, and then you rehearse for it's 6 weeks total, it's basically 2 weeks per show, and then from there, everybody, like, on a plane goes and flies to Florida, and then from there, everybody boards the ship.
Was the rehearsal like broken up? Like, was a day like in the morning I rehearse this show, the afternoon I'm gonna do, Golden Mickey's, and then, how was it, bro? How did you kind of rehearse all these shows at once?
So yeah, each show kind of gets its own little 2 week chunk. So we like rehearse them in order kind of. So we did like Hercules first for 2 weeks. Once that was done, then we did Golden Mickey's and then Disney Dreams. And I can't remember, but I'm sure we did some brush ups here and there. So we didn't leave Hercules for a month basically. We came back
Mm-hmm.
to it. And then there's other kind of like enhancements on the ship. There's the pirate deck party, there's some character things that the character performers do, there's the 80s party, which I was a part of, fortunately or unfortunately, which is like in the adult club, you go in and there's like an 80s dance party, and the some of the people from the main stage cast perform Footloose and a Michael Jackson medley,
Wow.
and it's all dance. And it is exhausting because you do that after you've done two
Oh,
performances of Hercules, and then you have to like change and get into your 80s costumes. But yeah, so that was kind of, it was like, you know, sometimes it was like rehearse the 80s party in the morning, Golden Mickey's in the afternoon. But it is fast and furious because it's 2 weeks, which sounds like a long time for a 55, 60-minute show.
hmm,
But Disney is, there is no room for error. I mean, it is like everything is planned to a T. Everything is very, very specific. So when you're learning the dances, it's not just like, oh, you'll stand kind of over there. No, it's like you'll stand on the number 6, and your toes will be on this like line of the stage because they're kind of divided up depth wise as well. So that you're always sort of like in a very specific point on the grid, and then your hands are doing something very specific, your body position, like it's all super, super specific. And what's funny is sometimes, like when I watch videos on YouTube, sometimes I can't tell if it's me or not. Not in Disney
yeah,
Dreams, but like in the ensemble shows, I'm like, oh, is that my cast? Because everybody's wearing the exact same costume and doing everything so specifically the same that
right.
it's really hard to tell who's who.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Yeah, that's Disney's big on, like, keep it consistent.
Yeah, we always used to joke like, it's not here, it's here. And we're
It's not
like,
here. What's the
and the dance
difference?
captains would be like, see the difference? And I'd be like, no,
No, I really
looks the
don't. I
same.
really don't. I really don't.
Um, because of that, the rehearsal process can be a bit tedious, but it's also, in some ways, it's great because there's really no room for like having to stress, like, well, what am I going to do? Like, nope, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do.
The Disney Dream Show, you're playing Anne Marie, so she's not a Disney character. So you kind of
Right.
had like, you're able to sort of create her, and you're not having to sort of, like, the kids in the audience they don't know Anne Marie, so they get to know her in the
Right.
show. But you've got, like your friend Mark was playing Peter Pan, or he's friends with Peter Pan,
Mhm.
and there's Ariel, there's Cinderella, there's all these characters. How do they keep the integrity of the characters? If you can talk about this, I'm not sure.
I do. Yeah, there's all sorts of like specific character training. There's like um packets and things that documents that you get when you're playing one of these like classic Disney characters, and even if you're doing it on set as well, so that you're actually like meeting and greeting people, there's like
Mhm.
catchphrases that Cinderella might say. So if you're kind of stuck, you're like, oh, you know what, I could say this.
Right,
Um,
right.
and then there's, I don't know if he's still doing it or still with the company, but there's this incredible man named Bill Sykes who comes and like, he's like a Disney character expert. He's been
Mm.
working in the parks. His story is incredible. That's who you should interview, Bill
Oh, I should
Sykes.
get him on the show. Sykes.
Yeah, he's amazing. So he has been working in the parks for forever as a performer. He was like one of the original Tiggers. And I actually brought a picture of me meeting like Alice and Tigger or something. Like there was like a picture of me with Tigger in it. And he was like, what year is that? And I was like, oh, 1984. He's like, oh, that's probably me. Because
Huh,
he literally like did all the Tigger sets.
right,
But anyway, so Bill's like a human encyclopedia of like Disney characters, and the way that they stand is very specific. The way they hold their hands is very specific. So if you're playing Ariel, your hand movements are not the same as if the person who's playing Snow White.
right,
So, it's a lot of like very, very fine details that everybody kind of has to master. And then that kind of makes it, one. Because if you meet Cinderella in Disneyland and then in Disney World, you want to feel like that's the same. You've met Cinderella, not like this person's version of Cinderella.
right.
And even though they were on stage, during a show with obviously like set lines and stuff, they still did all of that character training to know and to learn all those elements, which I think is
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Oh, it's totally cool. I would love that. Yeah, I'll have to talk to Bill Sykes, because I mean, a Disney character expert. I feel
Yeah.
like I could just ask him anything.
Mhm.
So as a cast member on the ship, did you have other duties outside of performing on the cruise ship? And sort of like, what was a day like? Like, you did the shows in the evenings, but during the
Mhm.
day, like, did you have days that where you were off, you could play, or were there other duties you had to fulfill? What's sort of like a role of someone who's on a Disney cruise ship?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the main stage cast and even the character performers as well, kind of like the whole group of us, we work nothing compared to the other employees and the other cast members on the ship. You know, the people who work in the dining hall and the dining rooms, the people who work in the shops, like they work crazy hours and we got super lucky. So I'll say that to begin with.
Hmm.
So a day on the ship, so if it's a port day, you're in Port Canaveral. There's something called the Fun Bus, which is just as fun as it sounds. You like pay $1, and the Fun Bus takes you to the Merritt Island Mall, which is also as fun as it sounds. And you just kind of can get off the ship and walk around. You can go to the Walmart, pick up stuff, and then you need to be back on the ship by a certain time. And the main stage cast, most of us, I think maybe all of us, were also uh what did they call us? Assembly station leaders. So we had to
Ooh.
be back, and then once the guests get on board, they do this assembly drill, guest assembly drill, which basically means that all of the guests have to assemble at their little stations to practice what might happen in the event of an emergency. And so while they're there, they listen to this like play this the safety officers give a little, it's kind of like being on an airplane, like in the event of an emergency, make sure you grab your life jacket and come to this station. But the main stage cast is like the leader of the stations. So I had to do that. So I maybe I'll send you a picture for the show notes as well.
Yes,
I
please.
had to wear my like Disney whites, so that's like a white polo shirt and very ill-fitting, high-waisted pleated white shorts, linen
Right.
shorts, and all white sneakers, white socks, and then my vest, my life jacket, and then a thing over top of it that said in bright orange letters, "Assembly Leader," and then a neon hat to match.
Oh, it's like
So
you
the
can't make
guests
it
would come
worse.
up. Yeah, the guests would come up, and we would line them up by families and then kind of take attendance to make sure that everybody's there. And then we would say, like, "Hey, everybody, welcome to Assembly Station G. That's G for Goofy. How's everybody doing? Welcome aboard the Disney Cruise Line." We kind of kept it light, all fun and games. However, in the event of a real emergency, I would have been in charge of all of those people and loading them into the lifeboats, which thank God never happened. But so that kind of starts the cruise. So that was like one thing I had to do. The other thing is to be a character greeter. So if there's a set where Mickey's out, there's usually like a person with Mickey, kind of being like a little
Hmm.
handler, a little interpreter, and the main stage cast had to do that as well. But that was kind of it, except for the shows.
I mean, that's a lot considering you're performing at night and singing and
Yeah,
dancing and,
yeah, and every now and then we had to do like safety trainings or something like that. But for the most part, I had my days free, so I could get off the ship and explore. Um, when we got to Castaway Key, Disney's private island, I would always get off the ship. I joke that like I spent more time on the beach like in my months on the Disney Cruise Line than I did growing up in South Florida, but the ship is like a floating building and you got to get out. So
right.
I always took advantage and went off the ship at Castaway and went to the beach and kind of hung out a little bit. And then the shows, there's 2 shows per night, 6:30 and 8 o'clock. So depending on like when you go to dinner, you do the show at the other time. But yeah, that was all of our like extra duties.
Did you find it challenging being on a cruise ship? And, like if you're in a show normally or, Broadway, whatever, a show, you usually have the daytime to sort of chill, prepare for your show, vocal rest. But obviously on the cruise, you have to do other things or you want to get off the ship and do stuff. Was it hard to sort of maintain like vocal health, physical health, like kind of to keep the stamina of going and doing the shows?
Yeah, it was actually. And the ship is like also like living on an airplane, like the air is so dry. And so I was like constantly hydrating. And I joked and said, for Anne Marie, like I had to do like a little kid voice. And so that was very taxing. But even now, like I feel like you could wake me up in the middle of the night and be like, go ahead, Disney Dreams, go. And I would still be able to do it. Like it was
Yeah.
such muscle memory after a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was tricky to find the balance because also on the ship sometimes it feels like I don't really want to go anywhere today. I'll just lay here and just like sleep all
Right.
day. And especially
Right.
if you have an inside cabin, there's no window, you don't know what time of day it is. You could just literally sleep all day. So I tried as much as I could to get out and see the world, even though we did the same ports every time.
Right.
But I felt like I needed to not sleep all day. Otherwise, I was not gonna make it and have any sort of energy for the very high energy shows that it was, that was required.
Yeah. Now, do you still keep in touch with cast members from the show? I imagine you get pretty close and it's a bonding experience, so you still keep in touch with people?
Yeah, I do. I have one of my very best friends, Mark, who you mentioned before. Yeah, I think there's always a special bond between the Peter Pans and Anne Marie's because the whole show is just Peter Pan and Anne Marie with these like other people that kind of come in and out.
Yeah.
But we have the bulk of the show and we spend the bulk of the rehearsals for Disney Dreams together in a room for like 8 hours a day, just doing our little scenes. So I actually both of my former Peter Pans I'm still really, really close with. And yeah, still have great friends from both contracts because it is like, like a little summer stock or a college experience where you're kind of with these people. And, sure there's other people on the ship, but again, with everybody's different work schedules, it's kind of hard to make friends with some of those other people because they're working different hours and, we have our days off and they don't. So, yeah, I feel like I still have a really close relationship with a lot of the friends that I met there.
Awesome. Love that. Now, if there was another role in Disney Dreams that you could play besides Anne Marie, what role would it be?
Oh, what a great question. I mean, I have to say Ariel because
I knew it.
yeah, I have to. Even though I got to sing part of your world
Yes.
as Anne Marie, weird random harmonies, but
Yeah.
still got to sing it. I think they actually have cut some of the harmonies and just let them sing unison. Like there used to be harmony on the very last note, and I think that's cut now
Right.
because it
It's
is
just
kind of weird.
right.
But yeah, but I feel like I mean, who doesn't want to like come up? She comes up
Oh, her
like
entrance is
from
so great.
it's so good. Like she comes up on a rock
Yeah.
from the
Sh
from the depths of the stage.
Yeah, her entrance was so it's so good. So everybody watch that part. But yeah, I agree with you. I'd want to be Ariel too. Now, were there any like funny mishaps, anything like that sticks out in your mind that you're like, "Oh, this happened one night," or, you know?
Yes. So on the ship, there's because you're on a ship, there's like safety protocols and things. So if there's an injury or somebody has a medical emergency, they say the word bright star
Oh,
as like a little code word. So what happens is they make the announcement from the bridge, which is sort of like the main office home base, if you will, like where the captain is. So they like cut all the music on the ship so that they can make this announcement so that they can like rally anybody who needs to come respond to this emergency.
mhm.
So, but that means they cut everything everywhere, including the Walt Disney Theater.
Oh,
So in the middle of the show, we're close to the end. It's the Lion King section of Disney Dreams. And we're like, whatever. Oh, I just can't wait to be king, Peter. And then it's like, bright star, bright star, bright star, deck 3 forward, bright star.
oh,
So now in this moment, not only is the audience like, what in the world is going on? But the four of us, me, Peter Pan, Timon, and Pumbaa, are left on stage. Now, that didn't seem like a long time, but it was an absolute eternity. So
yes.
now, like, the four of us are just standing there. Timon and Pumbaa are in costume, these like crazy costumes. I can't, I'll demonstrate it for you, but for the listeners, they won't be able to see. But
Right.
the costume for Pumbaa is like, the person is she's like 5'6", maybe 5'7", but she's kind of hunched over and using these little poles as her feet. So she's
Oh,
like bent over from the waist and she sees out of the mouth. So she really only sees like a tiny section of the floor of the stage. And that's how she gets around. So
it's like
she's
the
just like,
hyenas in The Lion King on Broadway. They were, like,
yes,
bent over and they used
yes,
the yeah.
exactly. So the two of them have very low vision in these costumes and they're like no one can hear them. They have no mics on. They're like, "What's going on?" I'm like, it's a bright star we're holding." So then like Peter Pan and I are just like da, da, da,
Hey.
da,
Yeah,
da, da, like what do we do?
right.
And then it ends and then we're like, well, everything is tracked with music, so we're like, "Oh god, where's the track going to start?" So like the sound, we have no communication. So somebody's like screaming from off stage, "We're going to start at the top of the song." Hoping the audience doesn't hear.
Right.
So we're like, okay. So then the track starts back at the top of the song, and we're like, come on, Pumbaa, like let's go back over here where
Oh my
you
god.
start. But there were a few like sound mishaps with the track that were just. Can I tell one more?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in Disney Dreams, they're all in Disney Dreams. Um, in the Aladdin section, Anne Marie gets this lamp. The lamp is as like in her room as decor, and Peter Pan's like, "Oh, did you know it's a magic lamp?" And she's like, "Whatever, no, it's not." And he's like, "Yeah, rub it 3 times, and you'll see what happens." So she like rubs it, and Aladdin comes up,
Mm.
and they sing. He sings a whole new world to her, and he goes back down, and she's like, "Oh, that was so magical, Peter." And he's like, "Well, let's see, like rub it again." And so she's supposed to rub it 3 times, and it's supposed to be like ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, and then like Prince Ali starts, and the whole stage goes crazy. Like, people come up, the elephant comes up from the bottom of the stage. So I rub it, and nothing happens. And I'm like, again, like, and for me, it wasn't so awkward because I'm not a classic Disney character, but for Peter Pan, he can't just be like, Anne Marie, what's going on? Like,
He's like,
he's
rub it
got to,
again.
yeah, he's got to like stay in the moment of Peter Pan. So I'm like, let me try that again, Peter. So I like rub it again, and I'm like, huh, it's still not working. Come on, Peter, let's go figure out what's going on. So we like run off stage.
Okay.
Then they're like, ladies and gentlemen. So then there's like a hold. We figure out like something happened with the track. We come back out, and I'm like, well, I guess I like have to improv. Like I have to acknowledge that this happened, even though I'm probably not supposed to.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, Peter, I'm going to try it again. And this time I'm sure it's going to work. And
Yeah.
and it finally worked. But it
Oh
was
my
just like,
god.
and again, like you're on stage with these like, you're not on stage with just like a fellow actor that you can like BS with if it was like a real, like a normal show. You're on stage with Peter Pan. So what is anybody supposed to say that like keeps it in the moment and
Right.
keeps it in the Peter Pan world? So those mishaps were always funny because, it was kind of like, oh, now what do we do?
Yeah, the pressure. I mean, and it's not like just another show. It's like, hundreds of little eyes watching, being like, what are they going to do? Like, is this part of the show?
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, they're sold with you. So they're like, I believe whatever you say.
And hundreds of little eyes being like, "No, what's happening, mommy? Peter Pan
Yes.
is looking worried."
Yeah. Why doesn't he make the magic?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. It's like amazing what you can do in a show in times like that. Like your body, you just go into like show mode and you're like, all right, I'm
Mhm.
going to improv. We're going to get through this. And it feels like an eternity, but it's like 10 seconds.
Yes, totally.
Oh, I love that. So you're off the Disney cruise. Now, I know you made your way into the world of Disney Store on Fifth Avenue in New York City, which was a
Yes.
fantastic store that I'm so sad is no longer there.
I
It
know.
was like a theme park store. It carried theme park merchandise, and you could meet characters upstairs. There was a whole sort of entertainment section, and it felt like having the Disney parks in New York City. It wasn't like
It
a
really
Disney.
did.
It wasn't a Disney store. It was a World of Disney experience. So, how did you find your way there?
So by that point, I had a ton of friends, including one of my college best friends who had worked there like from day one, and a couple of other people that I had met through her. So I knew like a ton of people working there already. And when I got off the ship, I was like, I really don't want to lose my Disney status. And I really,
Mm,
I don't want to go back to working at restaurants. I want to, try to stay, doing something a little more fun if I can. So I was super, super lucky. And I met with the manager, and she was like, I think we can find a space for you. And so I started like maybe one day a week. I was sort of like coverage for people who needed it. And then as the, years went on, I think I worked there for almost 2 years, I guess.
yeah.
And then I became more full time as time went on. But when I started, I was doing well. Everybody at the World of Disney sort of did everything. So we were all greeters, photographers, which I loved because I love taking pictures, and we did like little Stormosphere
Hmm.
performances. So we had little things like that. I know Jackie Militano was one of your guests, and we did a bunch of shows together at the store. And then we also were character performers. So we kind of did everything, which was fun because, like, on Monday, you'd be a photographer. On Tuesday, you'd be a greeter. On Wednesday, you'd be friends with Mickey. And so it was like a whole bunch of different things throughout the
Yeah.
week. So yeah, so I did characters there. I was friends with Mickey, Minnie, Alice, Wendy, um, Winnie the Pooh, Timon, Donald, like once. I'm actually too tall for Donald, which is funny because I'm very short. Um, Trying to think if that was it. I feel like there was one or two more like very random ones that were just for something very specific.
So very eclectic. Who was your
Yeah.
favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Well, Wendy and Alice I have such a soft spot for because I love to talk to the kids,
Hmm.
and I always used to say that 3 to 5 was my favorite age. But being a mom, 3 was pretty rough. So I made amend that now.
Right,
But 3 to 5, like, they really buy it. And you're
right.
like, "Hello, how are you today? Welcome. Do you know my brothers Michael and John?" They're like, "Yes." And you're like, "Yes, you do."
Oh,
So that was really fun to just like get to talk to them. But of course, I have such a soft spot for, my old pal Mickey.
yeah.
Mickey did not visit the store very often. He usually only came for special events. But then I also worked for Disney character events in New York and did some like extra special events outside of the store. And Mickey and I hung out a lot for that.
That's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I miss that store. I loved
Oh
that.
wait, Chip and Dale. I was friends with Chip and Dale too. And I'm
Yeah,
too short for them, but we made some fudgy adjustments at World of Disney because we needed to like work with the people we had,
right.
and we're very far away from any other Disney park to be like that's not correct. So, sorry
I
Disney.
love the height. They're so specific, but at the same time,
So
I'm like,
specific.
I would never know if I'm like, that Goofy is an inch shorter than, like, I would
Mhm.
never know. And I get it why they do it because, again, it's part of their brand, the consistency. But
Yes.
it's like, who would ever know if they were an inch shorter?
Right. I mean, technically, I'm too tall for Minnie as
Right.
well. I think Minnie is supposed to be like I'm 5'1" and 3/4 of an inch. So technically, in all scenarios, I should be friends with Mickey instead of Minnie because
Mm-hmm.
there should be somebody shorter. Um, but yeah, I mean,
Who's
like
gonna
I think
know?
Alice is supposed to be 5'3". We fudged
Right.
it.
Yeah. No one's gonna know. Now,
Now
one,
they know.
yeah, now they know. Now they'll know, but yeah. Well, one of the shows that they did, you guys sort of had like you did like sort of the pep rally High School Musical,
Mm-hmm.
and you were a cheerleader. You were a cheerleader for that, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember your cheerleader's name? Did you name her?
I think I just named her Kelsey because I had done High School Musical,
That
the
was my
musical.
transition.
Yes.
That was my transition.
Oh my gosh.
Um, well, I want to ask you too. Do you remember your pirate's name? Because Jackie had like a specific pirate's name. Do you
I
remember?
didn't do Pirates.
Oh,
I
you didn't
think
do
I was
pirates.
not
Okay.
there for that. Yeah, I wasn't employed
Okay,
yet.
fair enough. Well, back to my original transition. You were a cheerleader High School Musical, which ties into your Disney job. You were Kelsey in 2008 at Paper Mill Playhouse in their
Yeah.
production of High School Musical, which I think it was one of like the first big productions, right? Didn't
Yeah,
the show had just been licensed, I think. So,
I think you're right. Yeah, they had done a tour, I think, and
mhm.
then Paper Mill was probably one of the first after that.
Now, what was that like? Do you remember like the audition? That one, I'm sure you were like, I want to go to this audition.
Yes, for sure. There was like an equity required like
Hmm.
EPA, and I was like I have to go to this. Well, on tour, um the person who played it, I don't remember what it was, but there was something like they had made a change to the character for the tour. But then when I went in to audition for Paper Mill, like I walked in and I had auditioned for Allison Frank before, and so she kind of knew me, and she was like, "Oh, you look just like the girl in the movie. Like you're perfect for this." And I was like,
Thank you.
yes, that would be great."
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, so I did a couple of callbacks, and then I was so thrilled to book it because Paper Mill, for those of us like pursuing musical theater in New York and kind of hoping to get to Broadway, is like a real feather, to have done
Hmm.
a show there. It's like a really great place to work. And the show was so good, and so many people in that show have gone on to do amazing, incredible things, or were like famous already. And so I felt like it was really a really cool experience.
Oh, yeah, it was so great. Now, do you keep in touch with any of the cast members in that show?
That not as much. I mean, occasionally like on Instagram or something we'll
Right.
connect, but yeah, that one not as much. I think we all kind of like disperse back to our New York lives and then we come in to do the show, so that one wasn't quite as connected as like a summer stock or the cruise.
Because like one of the cast members, non-Disney related, but I want to like just mention it, was Bailey Hanks, who was from the Legally Blonde reality show, which was my guilty
Yes.
pleasure. Even
Yes.
though, well, I won't say anything, but um, she was lovely.
She was
Uh,
great, and she was
yes,
fantastic in the show.
she was great at that part. And I did see her in Legally Blonde, and honestly, like she kind of was Elle Woods in a way. So anyway,
Absolutely.
but this is not a Legally Blonde podcast. There could be one. Okay, so I want to jump into sort of a little. So I came up with a little Disney game for you, but it's sort of
Okay.
a mix of like trivia based on Disney dreams, like characters, things from that, but also like a
Okay.
little bit of this or that. So
Okay.
it's just going to be kind of like a hodgepodge. And I just thought this would be fun because I know you love Disney. So here's the first question. All you need is a little faith, trust, and blank.
Pixie dust.
Correct. What does Akuna Matata mean?
It means no worries
Correct.
for the rest of your days.
For the rest of your days. Okay, this one, all right, I'm looking at this now. I'm like, didn't really happen in Disney Dreams, but you love it anyway. The Queen of Hearts wants her roses painted what color in Alice in Wonderland?
Oh, she wants them red.
Painting the roses red. Okay, now we're going to jump into Disney this or that. So you just tell
Okay.
me gut answer. Mickey
Okay.
ice cream bar or churro?
Mickey ice cream bar.
Fantasyland or Tomorrowland?
Fantasyland.
Okay, all right. Villains, Maleficent or Cruella de Vil?
Maleficent. Sleeping Beauty is actually one of my favorite classic Disney movies.
Yeah.
I watched it a ton as a kid, but now it's like very scary. And she says hell.
She says hell. Some of those older villains they get away with like Cruella. I think Cruella might say damn or hell too.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It's very questionable. Do you
Yes,
like Angelina Jolie as Maleficent?
I do. I enjoyed that movie.
Okay. Okay. And then finally, I think I already know the answer. Mickey or Minnie?
Oh, Mickey?
I knew
Mickey.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a classic.
At the end of Disney Dreams, spoiler alert, at the end of Disney Dreams, like Anne Marie believes in her dreams. She learns how to fly. She goes back to her bedroom, and like all the characters come in to be like, you did it. And at the very, 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 very end, like they haven't been in the show at all, but at the very super end, Mickey and Minnie come in. I'm not kidding. I probably cried 9 shows out of 10
Yeah.
when they came in because it was like Mickey and Minnie. Like there's still like something about it, like from my childhood, that is just so exciting.
Yeah. I know. I don't blame you. I see it when people like have weddings and they have Mickey and Minnie come to their wedding. I'm like,
Oh gosh.
you just see them cry and it's like, yeah, I get it. It's
Yeah.
just, that nice
They're
memory.
magical.
They are magical. They are magical and you are magical. And I want to hear about the magical things you're doing. So tell us where we can find you on social media, follow you, and also tell us about your great podcast.
Oh, thanks. So my Instagram is at Stephanie Pam Roberts VO. And that's kind of the extent of my social media these days. But yeah, so at the beginning of this year, I kind of was looking for a creative thing to do, and I thought maybe I don't know, I sort of like spitballed a bunch of ideas, and I was like, or is it a podcast that I want to do? So I started a podcast called Making It to the Mic, and I interview different voice actors about how they got their start because I find myself, so I've been doing voiceover now for pretty much almost 10 years. And I find myself answering like the same questions for people who are just starting out or giving the same pieces of advice. And I thought it would be interesting to hear other people's stories as well, because voiceover is so broad and varied, and there's no like one path to do it, and there's no like right or wrong. There's just like so many options. And so that's kind of what the podcast focuses on, is kind of people's stories from beginning to now and how they created the careers that they have, where they came from, and all that kind of stuff. So I did season 1. There's 15 episodes with 15 different amazing voice actors from all different genres, areas of the country. Again, just to kind of show like you don't have to live in New York or LA. You can live in Kansas City. You can live in wherever, and still be successful. And then for the summer season, which is happening now, I'm doing behind the mic. So I'm interviewing people from the other side of things, agents, casting directors, animation directors, just kind of people with different insights about the industry from the other side. So it's been really fun. And we both interviewed Saul Blinkoff, which was
Yes,
great.
we did.
And yeah, so I think there's 4 episodes out. There's going to be 10ish in total, maybe. We'll see what how the end of it pans out. But yeah, so it's been a really, really fun creative project. So you can find that at makingittothemic.com and also every podcast platform.
Yes, and I will say it is such a great podcast. I love listening to it, not only because it's very informative, and I've learned so much about
Oh,
just the
thanks.
voiceover industry, and the people you have on are so nice, and everybody's so giving and they're warm. And it's just what I love about voiceover, because the entertainment industry can be very hard to be in because it can
Mm-hmm.
feel very competitive. It can feel very everybody's against each other, but the voiceover community I feel like really lifts each other up.
Yeah, and
And
that's come up so many times too with the on the podcast is people like I love the voiceover community. So it is a real it's a tight knit group.
yeah, and everybody just really wants to help each other succeed, because I think there's just the reality, which is that, you can't be the voice for everything, so there's room for
Mm-hmm.
everyone. There's room for
Mm-hmm.
everyone's voice to succeed and be part of it. So it's a great podcast. It's also very relaxing to listen to. It's calming. It's
Thank you.
produced very well. So
Oh, thanks.
everyone should check it out. And you probably have heard Stephanie on your TV. I've heard you flipping through, and I'm like, that's Stephanie in a commercial. Like, I hear your voice. And you did a Disney thing, right? One of your voiceover jobs was a
Did I do a
Disney?
Disney thing?
You did for Inside Out, the toys.
Oh, yeah, that was a long time ago. Yes, I did. I did a commercial for toys for Inside Out. So that was really fun. Um but yeah, I've taken a bunch of classes during this weird, COVID time. I've taken some classes with people from Disney, which has been so cool because I don't live in LA, so I would never have gotten to take classes with these people before, but one of the classes was with this casting director and director whose name is Ned, and he is just like the best. I feel like if you work for Disney, you kind of, there's like a vibe. And when other people are Disney people, you're like, oh, I get this vibe.
Right.
So there was like something about being in his classes that was just so like, felt like home. But he was so great. So we did this like 2-day workshop all on Zoom, 8 hours a day, both days, but we got to work on sound alike. So we got to practice like sounding like classic Disney characters, and
Oh,
we got to practice doing some dubbing and some like ADR work. So we got to work with a studio in LA who kind of patched into our Zoom session, and we got to dub some of these scenes from it was a scene from Wreck It Ralph,
oh,
and it was just so much fun to do and learn about these things, and like feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm connected to this person from Disney because of this wacky time, like
yeah,
this Disney Animation Studios.
yeah. That's so cool. That would be like, I imagine it's probably a dream, like to be a voice of a Disney character. Like,
Since I was the littlest kid, it was just
yeah,
like that's what I want to do, so maybe
yeah,
someday.
yeah. One day it will happen. Well, thank you, Stephanie, for coming on and sharing your stories. I loved hearing them. You've done so many great things with Disney and with voiceover, and it was wonderful to have you on.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome and so much fun.
Yeah, and everybody check out Making It to the Mic. Follow Stephanie. I'll post all her social media, her links and links to the podcast, because it's a really great podcast to check out and learn. Even if you're not an actor and you're just curious, how do they do voiceovers? It's very fascinating, because
Totally.
you'll be surprised. And don't forget, if you love Disney Inside Out, rate, review the podcast so other people can find it too. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you real soon.